So Loretta is she's the director of the Safety and Mission Assurance Office here at NASA Langley, and they are responsible for implementing system safety, reliability, and quality assurance to ensure mission success while also protecting the people here at NASA Langley. Prior to that, and this is when I was talking to Loretta, she was the director for the Center Operations Directorate. And so that's what we were really looking forward to talking to her about in facilities. And so she was responsible for all of our facilities around the center. And prior to that, when she started her aerospace career was in 1988 when she was commissioned in the United States Air Force. And she spent 23 years in the Air Force and left that as a colonel. But throughout that, she did loads of aerospace activities and working with satellite command and control, information operations, and all aspects of DoD, civil, and commercial spaceflight operations. And so with that, we definitely have a gem here. I worked with Loretta for many years as the CFO. And just want to kind of say as a little fun fact for Loretta, there's something called the birthday paradox. I'm not sure if people are familiar with that. Is when you put 23 people together in a room, which just happened to be senior executive, our CLC with Clayton and with Dave Bowles, there's a 50% with 23 people that 2 people have the same birthday. And it's not the same year, but it's the same birth date. It's close. Yeah, they're pretty close. I am older, I will admit. And if you do 70 people in the room, there's a 99.9% chance that 2 people in the room will actually have that birth date. And so our story is that we do have the same birth date. And the first day I kind of met Loretta, I said, hi, happy birthday, or hi, I didn't know it was a birthday. We figured out as we just started talking, welcoming her to the center, that it was her birthday. And I was like, that was my birthday too. And oh, by the way, here's $1 million cut. See ya. So, so Loretta and I didn't start off too well, other than we celebrated our birthday. But with that, a fabulous person that truly cares about the center, truly cares about, mission success, and in both jobs, doing a phenomenal job. So with that,
thank you,
Loretta.
Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate it. Well, hey, good afternoon. Thank you. So anyway, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity here to speak with all of you today. So again, good afternoon. As Kathy said, I've been here at NASA Langley at NASA for 8 years. So kind of a newbie, I guess, compared to most here at the center and here in this room. I got here in December of 2015. Spent my first 8 years here in center operations, the longest I'd ever been in a job in my life. And so it was pretty incredible. And then just recently asked, as Kathy said, to move over to be the director of Safety Mission Assurance Office this past January timeframe. So she asked me to talk a little bit about the facility and infrastructure journey that we've been on for the last 20 years here at the center. And it's, I think, a pretty exciting story. And I know you typically hear a lot of mission related kind of talks here. And so I just appreciate the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about infrastructure and all of our facilities that support the mission with you today. I think it's a pretty exciting story. And I hope at the end of today you would agree. So with that, let's go to the next slide, please. So what I'll cover here today is just a quick recap on our infrastructure here at the center. You may have seen a lot of this before, but certainly slow me down if I go through fast through some of that. Just got one slide on that, and then just based on the mission, which is why we have infrastructure here to support that mission. And then we'll talk a little bit about the transformational journey of our infrastructure over the last 20 years, our plan, problems, challenges that we saw, how we acted and responded to that, new plans put into place and the results of that. And then we'll wrap up with where we are today with regards to our center infrastructure. Next slide, please. All right, we'll dive right into it. So a lot of horizontal infrastructure highlighted here on this particular slide on the right. It takes a lot of infrastructure to support our mission and the 3,500 employees that we have here at the center. probably should turn that off. Can everybody still hear me okay? It takes a lot of infrastructure to support it, and there's a lot of work that goes into maintaining this infrastructure, both horizontal and facilities. So you can just see kind of a highlight on the right-hand side here of a lot of the infrastructure that we have. Horizontal infrastructure is typically considered to be, the stuff that's in the ground, your water mains, electrical distribution, water distribution systems, power, sewer systems, et cetera. And so you can kind of see some of the data there. And then on the bottom left-hand side, just tell you a little bit about the size of our center. You're very well aware, I'm sure. 764 acres, 190 buildings. That fluctuates depending on how many demolitions we've done and how many we have built. So it's probably closer to 187 or so by now. $5 billion cost replacement value, which is really a pretty high value compared to other centers. We're a very small center, but the assets that we have are pretty dense. These wind tunnels take a lot of money to rebuild and reconstitute, so $5 billion to replace it all is a pretty high number, even though we're probably one of the smaller centers. $274 million in deferred maintenance. That's the amount of dollars it might take to get our systems up to a good standard. Most of our facilities are in the fair or poor condition, and so that number continues to rise unless we act on that and improve the condition and the reliability of our assets. And then the size of the center itself. So you've probably seen this map before, hopefully, but if not, just want to draw your attention to the assets over here on the east side. I don't know if this works up here. You're probably very well aware of the where we got our start over here on the Air Force Base side, Langley Air Force Base, back in the day of NACA, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. We still have facilities over there. The vertical spin tunnel is probably over 80 plus years old now. Hope to replace that soon with the Flight Dynamics Research Facility that you're going to go see here in the summer. And among other facilities, we'll be able to demolition on that side as well. The TDT, Transonic Tunnel, is never going away because we could never replace it. It'll be a very expensive asset. But we got our start there back in 1917, and our age is showing about 106 years old now. Next slide, please. And of course, our mission, as all of you know, the reason why we do what we do on the institutional and the mission support side of the house is to support this, right? I mean, we have no other purpose for our existence other than to support the mission that we do here at the center, which of course is aeronautics, space exploration, and science, and outreach, our future generation, and our STEM engagement. So just wanted to make sure I highlight that. Next slide, please. So I feel we are standing on the shoulders of giants. I thought of this little phrase and I said, where did that come from? I say all kinds of things. I'm from the South and we have all kinds of little anecdotes we say. And my kids ask me, well, what does that mean? So I decided to look this one up. What does it mean, standing on the shoulders of giants? I think we know, but we have to go to Google to get the real source of the information. And it said that in a letter to Robert Hooke in 1675, Isaac Newton made his most famous statement: "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." I thought that was kind of cool. So I do feel this is very applicable to what's happened here in the last 20 years. Those that have come before me and before us have done some pretty phenomenal things. I'll take you through and talk a little bit, obviously, about that today. Those that had a vision and those that had the courage to follow the vision through and a commitment to see it through. That is why we've been so successful in our infrastructure program here. We're not perfect. Everything's not brand new out here and shiny and pretty nickels, but we've done a phenomenal job because of those that came before us that had the vision and the courage to follow through. So I just wanted to highlight that. Next slide. So I'm going to start talking about the journey back in the early 2000s. The Center Operations Directorate started to do, which we always have a master plan, but we're trying to formalize it a little bit more. And we had climate change going on. We had a lot of flooding issues. We had a lot of old facilities, as we do today. And we developed a 15-year plan at the time. And the strategy there was mostly repair by replacement. We're going to tear down old buildings, and then we're going to go build a new one. And so that was really kind of the overall strategy of the Newtown concept. It included the new headquarters building. There's a artist rendition of it. Looks a little different today. But that was the Newtown plan. Many of you may know the Newtown. We all heard of the Newtown program at the time. So that was published back in 2005, the Newtown plan. And just a high level of some of the facilities had 5 phases in it. The headquarters building, which is complete. The building we're sitting in was complete around the 2011-12 timeframe. A measurement science lab, which became measurement systems laboratory, came later. A materials laboratory was in the plan. And I thought this was very interesting to see and notice that back in 2000 to 2005, we were thinking about hoteling space already. So I thought that was pretty visionary of the team and Center Ops that was putting together this plan. So thought that was very interesting. I got Chuck Niles here to hold me accountable now. He's back. All right. Next slide, please. So over the next 5 years or so, every 5 years we update our master plans. We had a Newtown plan, and we were demoing and trying to build new buildings. We built one and started a second one, and it was time to update our master plan. We've been getting some guidance, friendly guidance from OMB and Congress that they weren't really happy with how we're managing our infrastructure at the agency. We also noticed, that we weren't able to knock back this aging infrastructure, trying to keep our facilities under the 50-year cap, right? You figure 50 years, you've gotten your money's worth out of it, but a lot of our facilities were well beyond the 50-year age limit, and our budgets were declining. The nice day of the 1990s where the money was flowing, Reagan was in, and money was everywhere. It was starting to tighten up. How are we going to deal with this? What's Congress telling us? We're holding on to facilities and capabilities that are scaled for another era. Our stakeholders are telling us we're not doing this right. The budgets, we were being told by OMB we needed to renew and sustain capabilities in fewer and more efficient facilities. And they got very specific with us on how much operating costs we needed to reduce by certain years, 2% in 14, up to 10% in 18. We needed more cost-effective closures, inefficiency improvements. We needed to discontinue stuff we didn't need anymore and get rid of it. And if you had it somewhere else, get rid of it and go somewhere else to do that work. So we were really on an unsustainable path. We didn't have enough money. We couldn't get in the box with the facility and infrastructure that we had. So urgent action was needed. Next slide. So just a couple pictures here just to show the budget and how it was projected to be, and pretty much where it's been is flat. If you know Mr. Bob Gibbs, he's the AA for Mission Support Directorate, he'll tell you today that this is an incredibly low amount of funding. So 16% basically of the overall NASA budget is used for SSMS, which is our safety, security, and mission services budgets. All your mission support functions from general counsel to procurement to CFO, to facilities, all that falls under this budget here, 16% of the overall agency budget, projected to be flat. CECR, Construction of Environmental Compliance and Restoration budget, is where we get all of our budget for renewals for new facilities like this one, comes out of this budget, and it's 2% basically of the overall agency budget. And then we didn't have all this knowledge back in 2010 when we were thinking about this, but we could project. We saw what we projected that we would have, which has been true, is about 10% of that 16% is what we get here at Langley. And then we've been very fortunate to see these new facilities over time, and we've gotten more and more of that CECR budget over the years, and I'll talk more about how we've been successful there. But the point being at this point is that we saw that we had flat budgets. A very unsustainable future is what we had. Next slide. The age of our facilities. This is what we projected. At the time in 2010, we had about 100 or so facilities that were over 50 years old, beyond their design life, and we projected this to occur over the next 20 years, right? So this is problematic. There's a nice old picture here on the east side. That's the full-scale wind tunnel. Many of you may be aware of that, and the vertical spin that is still there today and operating. The scale has now been demoed. But the problem being is the facilities were getting old, right? Took a lot of money to maintain them. And so what are we going to do about it? Next slide. So the imperative was there, and we needed to act. And so our center director, Ms. Lisa Rowe, many of you probably know, was here as center director from 2005 to 14. She established a team of executives and senior civil servants to go off and sequestered them for a year, maybe it was a year and a half, I'm not quite sure the exact length of time, to develop what they called the revitalization plan. The team consisted of, you may know these folks, Kathy Mangum, Charlie Harris, Cheryl Allen, Stephen Kraft, Drew Hope, Jerome Kiegelman, Mike Masteller, and Eric Weiser were on this original team. I'm sure they had a lot of other subject matter experts helping them over that time. But we knew we needed to act. The imperative was there, and we had to reduce our cost of ownership. So we coined this phrase, reduce cost of ownership. We still use that today. But she established a team, and she gave them a couple of tenants to go off and do. 1 and 2 here, if you would follow me. She tasked them to develop a 20-year strategic plan to revitalize the center, and we had to enable the center workforce to execute the future NASA mission. And we had to place the center on a sustainable path, right? Those were just the 2 tenets that she gave them. So the team was set aside to go off and develop a 20-year plan, replacing our 15-year Newtown plan, right? Given these tenets that we got to be able to execute the future mission, and we need to be on a sustainable path, right? And then it was a 2-part cost of ownership model that they had to follow. Those were 2 goals there in the bottom 2 numbers there, if you'd read 1 and 2. Yearly operational costs that do not escalate over time, incompatible with the constrained or flat agency budgets. That's a tall task. And avoids an increasing deferred maintenance burden that could jeopardize mission execution. So a very tall task for this small group to go off and do is to basically say, for the next 20 years, figure out how to stay in the box, in the budget box, which was a very, very challenging box to be in. Next slide. So the team spent a year to year and a half on that, and they published in July of 2012 the revitalization plan. That term has become very popular, revitalization. We pulled the word vital out of the center of revitalization and made an acronym out of it. You can see at the top there, which was the Vibrant Transformation to Advance Langley. So you heard a lot about the vital plan or the revitalization plan that we've used. Maybe you've heard that, but we kind of coined that phrase, or this team did, and we've used it ever since. And you can see on the right-hand side here, again, a 20-year plan, include repair by replacement, but a lot of other things, renovation of critical infrastructure, change to our maintenance program, a lot of demolition of non-essential assets were included in this plan. And then you can just kind of see the highlights there on the right. I'll talk more about the different major facilities that was in this plan. Many of them have already been complete or in work, as you see. Next slide. So how did we develop? What was all part of this plan, or how did they develop this plan? I'll tell you, there was a lot of hard questions asked because when this team would go around and talk to our mission folks here at the center, they would say, well, we need this. We've got to have this. You know, the mission stakeholders would say, we have to have this facility. Well, why? Why do you need this facility? And we would ask the 27 whys, right? This team had to do this. And I don't know if Roman over there was part of those conversations. They're very tough conversations that had to be had. This team came around and said, well, wait a minute, we can't afford all these facilities. So can we go do this somewhere else, right? The hard conversations had to be had. And so they brought those they met with all the mission folks. They developed this cohesive and comprehensive and integrated plan. They focused on 17 different capabilities on the center. I'll highlight a few of them just to show you. Of course, aeronautics, acoustics, aerothermodynamics, hypersonics, materials and structures, electromagnetics, systems development, sensor systems, entry, descent, and landing, and so forth. So 17 different areas they focused on developing key decision points along the way in this plan. And they also reviewed all the technical roadmaps that were ongoing at the time to include the decadal studies, National Aeronautics R&D policies, the Center Master Plan, RAND reports, sustainability plans, the data center consolidation plans, et cetera. All of these things, you can see here on the right-hand side some pictures of them that were published at the time, again, were considered and reviewed and brought into this plan. And then the goals are highlighted here at the bottom of the entire plan, which is to renew and sustain the infrastructure capabilities in fewer, more efficient facilities. We had to get more efficient in our facility usage. Reduce our operating costs, modernize capabilities, consolidate down to a core campus that you see here now at the center, and attract and retain that next generation. So just a quick picture here. I've got a few more on some of the newer facilities that we have as part of Vital 1.0. Again, the headquarters building had already been built at that time. And so there's some new facilities that have come out of Vital 1.0, the IESB, the Katherine Johnson Computational Research Facility, MSL, and the newest Flight Dynamics Research Facility that is being built as we speak. Have y'all gotten a tour of MSL yet? As the group? Oh, fantastic. Beautiful facility. Infrastructure, horizontal infrastructure. There was an incredible number of projects to renew our horizontal infrastructure also as part of this plan. You can see some of the corrosion on the top left, what are utility tunnels, some flooded utility tunnels, some very ugly pictures, and a lot of projects that have been accomplished under this vital plan to revitalize our horizontal infrastructure. The compressor station, the heartbeat of the center in the bottom left. There was a study that was done in 2011. Studies are really critically important when you're trying to advocate for funding. If you can lean back on a third party that's come in and done a study, this was actually the Safety Center actually came and did a study, this one, NASA Safety Center, and they said every one of those compressors were beyond their design life and need to be replaced immediately, and this was in 2011. So we put together a 4-phase plan to replace 6 compressors with 4 more modern, more reliable. And so again, sending 6,000 PSI to, I think it's 24 different facilities is really critical for this center. The compressor station is the heartbeat of the center, so that needs to be revitalized. The nice colorful map in the center is really our new electrical distribution system. That was a multi-phase project through this revitalization plan to change from a normal distribution to a loop distribution, giving dual feeds to every facility. We're still completing that as we speak. It's a new 22 kV loop system. And then you can see our water tower, which was also renovated as well. Next slide. So time does not afford me the opportunity to talk about all that has changed within our maintenance program. It's been a tremendous partnership with our maintenance contractor to revitalize our overall maintenance program, and has saved us millions of dollars in maintenance costs because of the changes there. But suffice to say, if I have to limit myself, is that the agency has adopted every one of our maintenance programs as now agency programs. These are all now required by every other center, and because they have reduced budgets and they're trying to get everybody else into the box as well. But some incredible progress has been made across tiered maintenance, proactive maintenance, and condition-based maintenance. We've instrumented about 700 assets at this center and in the last probably 9 years. And we've been tracking a savings close to $7 million in cost avoidance of just those assets failing, because we're monitoring and watching them. Temperatures, vibrations, and so forth are being monitored and watched 24/7. If we catch it before it fails, then that saves a lot of money, because once the failure occurs, the catastrophic costs are much more. Those savings of $7 million doesn't even include the impact to the mission, right? If the asset would have failed, what would have been the cost to the mission of the delay? That's not even in those numbers. So we've had a lot of success in our maintenance program also due to this plan. Next slide. So what are the proposed results that the plan had? So, of course, 6 new state-of-the-art facilities we've talked about and showed you some of those already. Renovations of critical infrastructure we've talked about. Demolition of a lot of assets was very key to this plan. And enabling Langley to respond to infrastructure and challenges and changes while making the center more efficient. And then very tactically, in the last portion of this slide, you'll see what the promise was. What was our promise to our stakeholders, what was going to come out of this plan? We're going to result in $100 million maintenance and utility savings, $135 million in deferred maintenance reduction, a reduction in our footprint of 25%, again over the 20 years, a reduction of $1 billion in cost replacement, and reducing the number of buildings that are 50 years old. Now, we didn't hold ourselves to the number of buildings that we were going to reduce, but we were going to keep that number down and beat it back down. Next slide. So a very audacious plan needs some audacious funding. And how are we going to do that? We had to sell this plan. So Kathy Mangum and the team, they did a lot of road showing, and I don't have all that included in here, but there was a lot of selling this plan. Commit. I hear it fall out. But we had to get a commitment by the center, the agency as well, that they would support this plan, right? The center supported it from the beginning, but it took a lot of salesmanship to go around and show all the stakeholders what we could accomplish with this plan, with their support. And we gained that support. But it was because we had the commitment at the center first. And this center supported this plan. And I can't tell you how important that was to our overall success. So when this center actually had some funding back in the day, and Kathy remembers this, they would give COD and our CFF manager around, I don't know, $7 or $8 million a year to go do good things in the revitalization plan. And that was tremendous because it allowed us to prepare for funding to be made available by headquarters, bigger funding, right, by doing preliminary engineering reports and designs and studies, so that when money was made available at the agency, we were ready. We built a culture of never leaving a dollar on the table. Never. I mean, the center ops director is phenomenal in their ability to spend money. So if money's made available, they can spend it, and they will spend it on goodness according to this plan. We held ourselves accountable to the plan. The revitalization board constantly monitors the success of the plan and how we're tracking against the plan. And if there's any changes to the plan, it has to go through a process of approval for any changes. Because of that commitment, we built trust at the headquarters. The headquarters trusted that when they gave us money, we were going to spend it the way we told them. And that trust has garnered us a lot of goodwill and a lot of money for this center. When I would talk to my counterparts at other centers, because they all came here and asked me about this plan. In my 8 years here, I think I briefed almost every other center, because they would say, how did you do it? What's this revitalization thing? Because we need some of that money. And we would show them and tell them, but when I got to the part that, oh, our center gives me about $7 million a year, they're like, well, my center's never going to give me that kind of money. So without that center commitment, which got smaller over time because budgets got tighter, there was years where we got $4 million, there was years we got $3 million, there was years we got $2 million. But for a while, we were up there around the $7 or $8 million, and we were able to do a lot of goodness. But because of that commitment of our center leadership and the center's budget, we could be successful. And therefore, we had skin in the game, and then the agency wanted to be part of that success story, and they were. And so it was an incredible story of success overall. But all right, next slide. So what are the results? How did we do? Have we done so far? I'll show you each of these on the slide if I have time. Kathy, pull me off.
You got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
15, okay. Okay, let's go to the next slide then. So cost replacement value, you know, we want to keep that down as well by tearing down a lot of facilities mostly. But so without Vital, would be our projection, without the Vital plan, is what we would see our cost replacement. And then with Vital, you can see how we knocked it to reduce by about $1 billion in 2028. Next slide. We also had a lot of energy goals as well to reduce our energy consumption, and done pretty well on this one. There was an agency goal, reduced 30% between 2003 and 2015. We made it to 25.6 with the help of all of our mission partners here on the center, have done a phenomenal job reducing their energy uses as well. But we made some progress here. The executive order came out in 15, wanted us to reduce another 25%, and we're still working on that. So there's still more to be done here, but we're making some good progress. Next slide. So the building age, you know, I showed you this one before. This is what it was going to look like without Vital. And then with Vital, this is where we're at, and this is where we're headed to knock this down about 100 buildings below the 50-year age. That was the projection there. Next slide. So we had to get out of a lot of old buildings and how much square foot that we had to make this success. And so the plan was projected to meet the 25% goal by 2028. We did have a change that happened. The agency decided to maintain the unitary plant wind tunnel. You may be familiar with the UPWT. So that decision did kind of throw a little kink in our plan because there was a lot of square footage over there that was part of our plan. But that's what plans are made to change, right? But you have a plan, you work toward it. If you make a change, then everybody's on board with that change. So we will not make this particular goal, but we certainly are making progress. And you can see as we dip in here, it was some of our new facilities like the CRF here that was built, MSLs, and then, again, planning for a lot of demo to include unitary there. But making good progress. We may not achieve that 25% overall, but we're going to continue to work toward that. Next slide. Deferred maintenance. Again, if we had all the maintenance dollars in the world and we had wonderful, good condition facilities, of course, inflation also affects this. So without Vital, this is what our deferred maintenance number would have looked like. And then again, with Vital, what happened here is this was the unitary. It was leased to the Jacobs contractor for a while. It came back on our books about this time frame, so that kind of brought up our deferred maintenance number. Here we projected to demo unitary, but that didn't happen. So again, this is probably flat out here. I don't have a current state here, but we weren't knocking this down, right? We were knocking that deferred maintenance back down, trying to stay in the box. Next slide. And then 5 to 6 years went by, and it was time for another plan. So I just want to highlight to you that we did do a Vital 2.0 plan as well. It was published in 2018. It followed the same model as Vital 1.0. We weren't going to change that success story at all. It was just updating the plan with some of the details there. And then you can still see some of the projects that we'd planned in the Vital 2.0 plan. Next slide. So when that plan was published in 18, we had already divested of 86 buildings and structures. These aren't little small Connex boxes we're talking about. Some of those were in that number, but we had some very large demos that we were doing, and we were holding ourselves accountable for it. Very painful when you start tearing down full-scale wind tunnels and 16-foot wind tunnels. This is a significant emotional event for people. It's very hard to do. But again, we needed that commitment that we were going to get in smaller, more efficient, more effective. The ALDEF as well. Many other large facilities. We're taking down Colts right now, the library, the Reed, the Pearl Young. I mean, we've demoed and are demoing a lot of different facilities. 86 buildings. We needed, at that point in 2018, we needed another 36 facilities to meet our plan. Next slide. This is a picture of the demos that we had planned in Vital 1.0 and Vital 2.0. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to keep unitary here now. So there's certainly a few changes here, but you can see them highlighted in red on the slide. Again, 30, that's what I meant, 38 more buildings at the time that needed to be divested of, but this was our plan. Do we have time for the little video? Oh, yeah. I think it's like a minute. So again, trying to sell an entire plan to your stakeholders, a video or a picture can say 1,000 words. And we had a little video here that the team put together. This was actually the Vital 1.0 team, but it'll just show you the divestments, the rehabs, and the new construction at the time. This was, and I'm taking you back to Vital 1.0 of what the plan was in just a little short video. Now, a lot of this has changed, but this was the plan from that time. If we can get that to show. Mary, you never saw this? Well, we just kept this a secret, didn't we? It's been a while. take down 1250. So obviously these things all hadn't played out, but this is one of the original plans back in 2012. But this was the original plan on all the renovations, demolition, and new facilities and infrastructure. So anyway, it was just a way to sell it to your stakeholders as well, to be able to visually show all the changes that were to happen, right? And actually, a lot of this is gone too. I don't know why this is still showing up, but the idea again was to demo what we call the back 40 and get rid of a lot of this, right? And move it into this core campus. This is our highest elevation on the center of our property, is right here where you're sitting. And so trying to move a lot of this inward and get rid of some of the older things that are in the back 40. But anyway, it was just a representation. Certainly a lot of things have changed in our plan since then, but I just wanted to show that to you. Let's go ahead and skip through a couple of these. I've actually talked through this. Let's go through that one. Next slide.
About a minute and take some questions.
Next slide. Next slide. We've seen the pictures. Next slide. Future. Okay, here we are. Hold on. Let's talk about this one. Where we are today. My last slide. So where we are today. So we've certainly led the agency in this renewal process from 2008 to 2023. We divested of 106 real property assets. You can see the square footage there we've taken down. We've constructed 4 new LEED facilities. In 16 years, we've been able to build 2101, 2102, 03, 04, and 05 is in construction, and fully renovate a wing in 1230 for the intelligent flight systems. And probably we've garnered around $300 million to do that. That is an incredible success story. I had 23 years in the military. I never saw that much military, because we called it MILCON, military construction, in my entire 23 years. And we've garnered $300 million here at one center because of the foresight and the vision of some leaders back in the early 2010. And the commitment to follow through with it is incredible. It's just, and that doesn't even include all the horizontal infrastructure. I didn't even add up, I don't even know where to start to add up all the projects that we've been able to do on our horizontal infrastructure as well. But just an amazing success story there. Reducing our deferred maintenance, exceeding our conservation goals. I did skip through that slide, but we have exceeded them. And now the agency has adopted this model. So we just they just designed and built our first agency master plan. They've got a $650 million gap we're going to try to overcome using some of the strategies that we used in our revitalization plan. And then the world has changed. This is really the future now. MAP is the future mission support future architecture program, which was the enterprising of all the mission support services at NASA. We've all now become enterprises, and so all the funding now is managed and operated by the agency and not the centers. So the rules have changed, the world has changed, and it's becoming more challenging. But what I would tell to you, my half full glass for today, is that we are in an amazing position to be able to weather through that and start looking at what's the next 20 years should look like for NASA Langley, because we're as healthy as I think any center can be, because we were able to do the things that we've done over the last 20 years. And I think that's I got one more slide, I think. This is a term that I hear a lot of my counterparts when we have meetings, is this little phrase right here, and it just sings to me every time I hear it when someone else says, well, you know, Langley leads the way. Well, yeah, that's true. We do, right? And we find solutions to hard things, just like all the mission folks do here at the center on a regular basis. We do that also in our infrastructure. So that's all I had to share with you today on our journey. I hope that was interesting to you and that you enjoyed that. Are there any questions for me? No hard questions. If we do, I'm giving them to Chuck. Yes, sir.
I'm Ira Abbott, and I used to run the contract section that did all of the stuff that you're talking about. Oh, but okay. Yeah, I used to run the plant contract section where we put out all the contracts for $100,000 and under, replacing anything from roofs to maintaining roads.
Yes, sir.
And we spent 50% of the maintenance money for the center for my 7 or 8 years in that section.
Is that right?
All right. So I'm very familiar with what you're doing.
Yes.
another thing that's slightly different, this Hall of Honor things which Duncan did, I would like to see some way that he could be remembered for doing that.
Duncan.
And that would be part of the Langley Alumni Association Hall
Right,
of Honor.
yeah, I'd like to see
Right,
that
okay.
done.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll take that. Melanie and I were just talking about something like that, so we can,
Yeah.
we will
Excellent.
work that, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from people on the web?
We do have a couple questions online. One is, what is the status of the Building 1247 wind tunnel facility project, which was part of phase 1?
Yeah, so 1247, they can hear me still, right?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, 1247 has been a challenge for us to get funding for that building because it's multiple mission areas in there and everybody wants to get someone else to pay for something, right? So that mission should pay, or that mission should pay, that mission should pay for that. And it has been a challenge. We've done some projects in 1247. Our original plan was more of a full renovation of 1247. That building is very old. Also, we thought we could I think the plan was to put the LAL capability over here. Was that right, Roman? And put that into 1247. I believe that was the plan when we were talking about demoing the unitary plane wind tunnel. Thank you, sir. And so when we found out later after doing some studies that we couldn't fit that capability into 1247, so it just it became a challenge within our plan. Our original plan was a full renovation of 1247. That one was hard to sell because of the multi-missions that they support over there. And then also the original plan included the relocation of LAL, and we found out it didn't fit. And we were going to have to find another answer to that. We're still looking for another answer to that because now that we're keeping unitary, we're still trying to figure out how we're going to manage that. The hypersonics high Reynolds number tunnel is really supposed to fix that problem, but that's become a $350 million cost, and no one's got that kind of money today. So that's still an ongoing challenge that we have that we're working with.
Yeah.
Got a question in the room here.
Hi, I'm Tony Ptotsky.
Hey, Tony.
I was working with the TDT, which is building 648, and I'll tell you one thing that's bothers me a whole bunch is trying to paint the whole building, and it's just been for a number of years that they haven't done anything with that building, and I think they're having a little bit of a problem trying to redo the facility to work correctly. And so
Yes.
I'm just wondering, what do you know about what they're doing with that particular building?
So a lot of this plan, again, was more institutional infrastructure, so it really didn't recapitalize a lot of the mission systems like the wind tunnels. Corrosion is a problem rampant across this center. We did have, I was told, probably now 25 years ago, we had a corrosion program, which means you regularly go out and paint. And I don't know if that included wind tunnels. Roman, you correct me if I'm wrong on that or not. I think we've done some painting over, but there was a corrosion control program. So 2 years ago, I put in a agency-wide risk. For what it's worth, we put it up to headquarters. They're monitoring the risk, and they're trying to put money into doing a study across the agency. Corrosion is a problem across the entire agency. It is a big problem. We're already 20 years behind. So this plan didn't fix that problem. It didn't fix our corrosion problem, other than we could tear down some old facilities that were corroded and build some new ones. But overall, it didn't really fix our overall corrosion problem. So we've identified it as a risk. They're trying to put $2 million aside at headquarters to go just do a study. And you got to first study it and see what your problem is, and then you got to put a phase plan, which is what this plan did, a phase plan to go after and start getting after it. But 20 years behind, we're in a mess really with corrosion. But corrosion's an issue. I know the missions are trying to put money aside for some painting. They painted the spheres out here. What was it, two and a half years ago? That was phenomenal. So I know the missions are trying to get after where they can afford. They're trying to do some corrosion as well.
So, Loretta, Roland Pierce, and Tony, to answer your question, about 10 years ago, there was a study done specifically for painting TDT, the outer shell of TDT. And the results of that, and I guess it's numbers from lot 10 years ago. $15 million over 3 years up front, and then for the rest of the 7 years out of that 10-year plan was another 25 million. So total cost of 40 million to paint TDT, which is significant. And that's numbers from about 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
So with that, Loretta, I want to say thank you for
folks.
being with us. Yes. And here's a mug for
you.
you to remember us.
Nice.
By and come by any time. We're here on Tuesday. And yeah, thank you very
Very
much.
good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, folks. Y'all have a great day. Appreciate it.